NFL's back officially Thursday night. You've got Kansas City hosting Baltimore. Can't wait. And then we've actually got Friday night football in Brazil. Green Bay taking on Philadelphia. And remember, it was about a month or so ago, there was some discussion about what colors they were going to be able to wear because of all the gang activity.
Yeah.
Players are still kind of mum on what they can and can't do, from the team perspective. So it's going to be interesting from that angle. Not going to see much on X from reporters that will be there on behalf of the NFL, on behalf of your favorite team, or just national reporters in general. That's because Brazil they've banned X. The Brazilian minister and Elon Musk don't see eye to eye when it comes to freedom of speech. And they've banned X, meaning you can't post anything. If you do, you'll be fined. And this is supposed to go for all teams and those covering the game coming up on Friday. This is in an effort, you can't express political views leading up to their election. And it's very anti-American when it comes to freedom of speech, being able to say what you want to say and when you want to say it. The NFL is going to stage a game there, and this has been in the works. They want to go global. This is one of their 5 different places that they'll play games this year outside of the United States. And here is Clay Travis, who had this post. I doubt the NFL will do it, but it'd be a strong move to support the freedom of speech by canceling next Friday's game in Brazil over the banning of X in the country and playing Eagles-Packers back home in the United States. U.S. reporters, teams, players will not be able to tweet from Brazil. Now, in theory, I think, in a perfect world, this is a great idea. They have moved games very late into a hurricane weekend or very late into a massive ice storm, snowstorm, whatever's coming in. But they're not moving this game, Jack. Too much at stake for what the owners are doing. And let's be honest here, too, from the way I view this. If they were to move this game over X being banned in a country, imagine what other players over the smallest thing in an election year would be clamoring for right after that in terms of where a game's being played in a state or in a city that was in turmoil or in unrest or controversy based on the election coming up this fall. They'd set a precedent that I don't want to see play out, because if they do this, they listen to literally everyone. Just play the game and get out of there.
Yeah, they're not going to move it. I mean,
No,
we all know no one's naive enough to think that the NFL is ever going to do anything that would jeopardize their money, and they're not going to do that. This is all a money play. They are, as Hutton said, trying to go global. They want a big South American influence. They want to be in Europe. They want to be all over the world so they can make the most profits possible. Here's a way to avoid any issues with neutral gang colors or suppression of information in a country, and where this game, I would have been more excited to watch it be played, Lambeau Field or in Philadelphia. I'm not excited to turn on the TV and watch a game in Brazil. I'm excited to watch the NFL in the NFL's first weekend. I'm excited to see NFL stadiums and fan bases the first weekend. But this is a constant thing that I talk about with so many stories that pop. When you just make decisions based solely on money and not what is necessarily the best for your fans, your fans I'm talking about, not trying to grow fans in other markets or other countries or other continents, but your fans, when you just decide to talk with your wallet and not look at other factors like, I don't know, rampant crime, a corrupt country that you're playing it in, and all these other things, then you get stories like this, where I would just prefer the game be played at Lambeau Field. I'd be a lot more excited about watching that game than watching this game in Brazil on Friday night.
Yeah, and I think while we all want to see the 18th regular season game and, back down on the preseason, I think that extra game that's going to be added is ultimately going to be an international game where every team every year is going to play internationally somewhere. And they just add that in. Because right now, the NFC has the extra home game this season because of the lopsided scheduling. And this year, for instance, they're playing in Sao Paulo coming up on Friday. They will be playing, in London 3 different times this year. They've got Jets, Vikings, Jags, Bears, Patriots, Jags. They play in Munich, and then they've already announced that they're playing in Madrid coming up. So get ready because it's only expanding. And they want that. Goodell's going to retire in 2027, and he wants the legacy to be global expansion. And every other league is doing it. The NFL, how long has it been since the teams could actually buy into marketing efforts globally? You remember this? This was about a decade ago or so.
Yeah, it's like it was like the Great Land Rush. They just had to claim a country.
Yes.
They had to bid for it and then claim that.
You can tell where they want to go.
Spain is the Dolphins or something.
And hey, free speech should not be this political issue. One side or the other. Everyone agrees with freedom of speech. But, this also, doesn't this underline and underscore why we have it good? You just ban X and, you can't post anything you want to, or you're going to be fined.
I don't think everybody wants free speech. I'm not going to sit there and say that even in America that everybody wants free speech. They want their free speech.
Well, then they want free speech.
They want everyone else suppressed, right?
Well,
that's what Brazil is doing.
Well, this is everyone suppressed.
Yeah. But they want to get their version of the story, right?
Sure.
They want to get their version of what's happening. A lot of people that were, Elon Musk is allowing people on the right to say what they want, that we need to suppress them. It's just, you want suppressed what you feel like is irritating to you or misinformation or whatever. They're not going to cancel the game. So Clay basically acknowledges that too. It's not going to happen because they worship the almighty dollar above everything else. There's no, let's get our head out of the sand acting like the NFL cares about more than that.
Well,
for the people of Brazil, we're going to stand up to this suppression and cancel this game, or we're going to play it here stateside. If they did that, I would be shocked. They want to make the money.
When is the last time we've heard about the Olympic Games there and all the craziness and the dumpster fire they left behind after they built all those stadiums, and then just now it's just deserted in the middle of nowhere. Just concrete structures. Yeah. How many people died doing it, and it was a huge story, and then it's just forgotten about. Like this, they'll play the game, and then they'll go back to Lambeau. And the owners will make their money.
I actually thought about the Rio games today, Hutton.
Did you?
Because this morning I watched the latest Untold on Hope Solo.
Okay.
And it's fantastic. I love it. I highly recommend it. And it makes me like and appreciate Hope Solo. I don't know that I really liked or appreciated her before, but after watching this, I like and appreciate her even more. And it shows just how much of a hypocrite Megan Rapinoe is in the whole equal pay fight that Hope Solo started, that they abandoned her on at some point, then took it up as their own. Even she did all the legwork for it, even though she did. But in the Rio Games, they did not win gold. And there was a big portion of it where she was playing in the Rio Games, and they failed to win the gold medal.
A lot of fan bases feel like they failed to win anything now. They're just throwing it in on the college football season. Chad, the more things change across college football, for the last several years, we've gone into it with drastic change in the landscape. But really, for the most part, you come back after Labor Day, and things are just about the same. For instance, the fan base overreaction, which we were going to point out in a glorious fashion coming up. That's never going to change. People have, just thrown in their happiness until Christmas based on the results of week one, in some cases, their second result, Florida State. The season has been ruined for half of the country fan base. Meanwhile, I'd say 25% of the 50% that feel really good, they believe their program is back. No joke. Listening to some reaction after Vanderbilt's win over Virginia Tech, and I did hear the fact that Vanderbilt could be back to the James Franklin era. Not joking about that. That is week one of college football. That is what will never change. Coaching salaries being brought up. good or bad, underpaid or way overpaid. Happens every year. The run game. We never talk about the run game. It's always about the quarterback stepping up, throwing for big yardage, touchdown passes, Heisman Trophy finalist expectations, and then it's the run game and the offensive lines that take over football games in week 1. Ohio State gets off to a slow start in the first half. Happens all the time. Happen again. Boat race games. Yes, we try to figure out what we can learn from those. You've got the Georgia massacre every time they take the field against the ACC. I mean, the beatdown that they have handed the top 2 teams in the ACC in their last 2 games, Florida State and now Clemson. Georgia remains king of the mountain. And, Chad, we always come back after week 1 of college football. Man, that was awesome. We know it's going to happen, and it was. But for some really bad moments, it still leads us to just go back to what we love about college football. It's not about the business, the super conference, the TV networks, all the drama of where teams are going to play, who they're playing. It's about the product on the field. And the more things change, the more things stay the same. And that's why college football can't lose. There will just be some losers in the management side of things when it's all said and done, namely the NCAA.
Great points with all those, Hutton. I'll add in another one. Talk about television broadcast and the games themselves and TV crews, and now different networks having different associations with different conferences, and the theme music sounding weird with the Big Ten on CBS instead of the SEC on CBS, the music, and getting Brad Nessler and Gary Danielson on Ohio State Akron to open the season, and Kirk Herbstreit's dog annoying people in the booth with him, and all of this talk too. And I think it's honestly, like, some people say, oh, that's kind of just silly, you know, what fans get into, and that it's really not. Like, television networks now are such a major player in the whole landscape of the sport.
Yes.
It's what's driving realignment. It's what's driving a 12-team playoff. So, no, talking about announcers, talking about Mark Jones and his broadcast partner on Thursday night being homers for Dion. It's a story now. So much going on. You're right. So many things change, yet so many things stay the same. And how about Nick Saban saying shit on his first college game day? Or actually second. I guess he was in Dublin, Ireland. But great point he made about Ohio State. $20 million salary, you know, team salary pool. Well, you're shit out of luck if you pay the wrong guys. That's well said by the coach.
He and McAfee are a great pairing.
Odd couple.
Side by side on set. It works. It works because Saban is going to, even though he's a part of it, he's anti, polls, picks. He's always going to point it out in a humorous way, but he's a serious way. And then McAfee's going to do exactly what Saban hates right next to him.
Oh, yeah.
And then Saban's going to laugh about it. It's a very good television product and a good pairing for the yin and the yang.
And also, I think Saban can respect the hype man aspects of Pat McAfee because he was one to motivate himself, and get on his team and get him going.
Yeah,
but
sure.
Just the pro wrestling part of it, you could see Saban chuckling when he's pulling the jacket off and the suit and everything at once and going shirtless. Yeah. And he's, massaging Saban's shoulders. McAfee making cracks about Saban paying for his team.
Yeah.
This guy paid for all of his players, right, Coach? I think it's a great dynamic. I really thought I think Fowler and Herbstreit are terrific.
Mm-hmm. Everything.
The dog.
Whatever.
It's whatever to me. It doesn't really bother me, but
no. It doesn't bother me.
Yeah, it's not a big deal.
At what point can Herbstreit not come up with anything else to add into his contract to travel with?
Yeah,
private jets, dogs.
I saw someone, we're going to get in between the hashtags here soon. It's not one of them, but Herbstreit going at somebody who legitimately said that dog needs to be at home playing with other dogs and not locked into that prison of a private jet flying with you. And he's like, "You're a moron. Drop it." It's getting real mad at the guy. Oh,
the dog hit the lottery.
I know. I do wonder what it was. Reese Davis on Sunday night that was with the dog. Like I wonder if he's like, okay, this is my life. There's a dog in here now.
Chet,
call this game, and here's a dog.
What's the reality for Florida football? The state of Florida football right now.
There's this myth of the Florida man, right? That usually involves someone that did something with an alligator or some sort of domestic situation. When you think of the Florida man, you often think of jorts.
Tiger King.
You think of something swampy. Well, there's something that happened in a swamp this weekend that makes me think of three versions of the Florida man coming out of week 1 of the college football season, okay? Version 1 is Billy Napier in Florida. Billy Napier, I don't want to be an alarmist and the week 1 guy who comes back and says either the sky is falling or my team's the greatest, but I'm going to go ahead and say it. He's dead at Florida. The man is dead. I don't know what you call that on Saturday other than what Mario Cristobal called it, which was a complete and total ass whooping in the swamp. I did not see that. In fact, I had his wrong team favored and Florida winning.
I didn't see them losing like that.
That was not a good performance at all. Now, maybe DJ Lagway can come in and show some excitement as a 5-star quarterback and they get things on track, but I don't see it with him. So there's a version of Florida man, one that's basically losing his job.
Let's break these down as you go through them. So Napier,
tears of Florida man.
We knew he was facing a situation where the talk was, can he get to 75? And we went through the schedule. He may not be able to. This is preseason discussion. You may not be able to get to the end of the season and have the opportunity to win your way into another year because of the schedule. But you had to win this game. And brought up on.
Well, couldn't get killed. I don't know if you had to win it.
No, just based on wins and losses.
It was a winnable game.
Just wins and losses.
At home. And it could give your fan base some, okay, he's been positive throughout the offseason. Maybe this team is better than we think. And they're going to surprise some people. But instead, you just get physically dominated at home. You're
talking up Graham Mertz. You've got all these different factors that you've been discussing. And I like Napier. I think he's a good ball coach. He was dead man walking whenever you've got a system where you eat your own. And he was asked to come in and clean house. He did that. And even to build it back up, he's shown that he can recruit. He's been doing that in recruiting classes. Things have just morphed into the perfect storm of him having to face this schedule. Now, let me also point out the eat your own moment. We saw that happen. I pointed this out on Friday to Spencer Rattler at Oklahoma. And when does, they came back out of break for the fourth quarter, and you've got the Tom Petty won't back down, and, their tradition. When does the moment happen where, and you said it was 7-0, it may happen, but when the fan base truly just goes all in against him, and there's no recourse but to have him off the sideline?
Yeah, I think it's just losing a game that you absolutely no one's expecting them to lose.
Or just continue down this path of beatdowns.
One big upset, or not being competitive like they weren't on Saturday.
I think, too, this is also, and I'm sure you're going to get to Miami, but this is about the competition within the state. And when you see Florida man up with Miami, and it looks like that in week 1, they're not in the middle of their gauntlet, I guess is what I'm saying. Week 1, and this is the product, and a chance to, if you're going to show some fight at home after all the talk about how you suck, this is the game.
Well, I now think that if they aren't competitive at home against A&M in 2 weeks, he could be getting fired in the bye week, which is September 28th. Because then they go to Mississippi State after that. And if they lose to Jeff Lebby in year 1, I think it's the writing's on the wall. Now, there's an argument to be made that the reason Florida's in this problem is constantly cycling through coaches too quickly.
Yeah.
And they need to stick with someone. Now, then you could go, well, is this the guy to stick with based on what he's done so far? I don't know that you can make that argument right now. But going through coaches too quickly has been a problem. So, Florida man number 1. Another type of Florida man is Mike Norvell at Florida State. It looks a lot like this guy's getting paid $9.88 million, and that will rise to $11 million over the course of this contract based off of one really good year and one pretty good year before that, going 10-3. Florida State is suing their own conference to get out, and they're 0-2 against Georgia Tech and Boston College. And Mike Norvell, who has been pretty good in the transfer portal, not even pretty good, good. Mm-hmm. He's been good to really good. He missed on a lot of dudes this past offseason, and they lost 10 guys to the NFL draft. and they did not adequately replace them, DJ Uiagalelei, not the guy. I said on Twitter last night, he is Joe Milton with a much worse arm, with a weaker arm. And I was getting crushed by Tennessee fans saying, how dare you compare him to Joe Milton? Joe Milton's light years better. Joe Milton's not losing to Boston College or Georgia Tech. You know what? They're right. Probably right. Joe Milton's a better college quarterback. May have been unfair to Joe Milton to compare DJU to him. Not the guy. Not accurate enough, especially down the field. Florida State's in trouble. Mike Norvell, while he's not getting fired this year or anything close to it, after signing that extension, looks like a dude that's getting overpaid based on one great season right now. That's what he looks like to me.
I went and watched his postgame presser last night. The dude owned it. I was more than impressed with how he handled the podium. He sat there for like 30 minutes, and, he wasn't upset. He wasn't defensive. He just flat out said what was on his mind about his team and how he has totally whiffed on reading the room with them. He thought they'd come out way better after trying to see some fault in Ireland, what happened. He thought some of the reads were there for DJ that he just was awful with. Other times, receivers didn't help him. But here's the thing about Norvell that he says isn't happening, but I think it absolutely is. I think last year, not going unbeaten and not being rewarded with the college football playoff berth, and then what happened in the bowl game has carried over. I don't really buy into a ton of carryover, especially when you're recruiting and you're bringing in new guys, but the program vibe is that to me. There's still this, they got overlooked and they feel like they're less than. Like they're not worthy in a way in the minds of the college football gods, even though they view individually like their silo. We are Florida State. We're the Seminoles. Screw you. But at the same time, internally, they're playing like, well, they say we suck, even though we won every game. So I guess we suck.
They're also in sort of
that's the way they look.
They're in a purgatory for this reason that not only were they overlooked because of their conference. So they've got kind of this insecurity about that, and then the beatdown by Georgia where no one played.
Right.
But also they're suing their conference. So in doing that, you're saying we're better than you. We need to get out of this conference. We're better than this deal. And then your team starts 0-2. It's just this weird back and forth and a strange time to be a Florida State fan.
No doubt. And it's also a team, Chad, and you can see this. I think anyone watch again. Those players don't believe and buy in and trust DJU.
No.
Jordan Travis, totally different. DJU, it's just not that guy.
Oh, the tight end at one point,
just not that guy.
Late in the first half, was visibly looking back like, why did you even throw it to him?
Yeah, why are we doing this?
He was covered by two guys, and he kind of threw it over his head of the end zone. He's getting up like doing this to DJU, and you could see one of the coaches trying to tell him not to do that anymore to his quarterback on the sideline.
How about Bill O'Brien, though?
Well, flip side of this is Boston College might be pretty good.
Yeah.
Castellanos looked awesome last night. So I was impressed with them. Physical up front.
I think it's more about Florida State. We said that about Georgia Tech, too. Georgia Tech might be pretty good. Who knows? But at this point, I don't think Florida State's a good barometer.
No, there's a great, by the way, there's a great profile of Bill O'Brien at Boston College up that dropped yesterday at ESPN about how he views that job. His wife is a Boston College grad. They live in Chestnut Hill, 1 mile from the stadium and from his office. And, he's got the right plan. I mean, he's saying, we're not going to be from a revenue NIL perspective, Georgia, Alabama, but we can compete financially to get the right skill position guys. And then we're going to build a tough, hard-nosed team around it of overachievers. So he's not saying we're going to finish top 10 in recruiting annually, but can we get enough guys to hit on at the right positions and then build lines around that to where we could eventually be in a 12-team playoff out of the ACC? He firmly believes that.
And just real quick, he
could start for him at Boston College.
And he could be one of those guys that never leaves because his son is special needs and has like some really serious health issues. That's why he was in New England to begin with.
Houston took care of him. Yeah.
Loved the hospitals there, very specific specialists there. And then now in that area, he's in a great spot for his family.
And I believe when he was in Alabama, his family stayed in Houston or somewhere else for his care.
I think that's right.
So Yeah.
Point being,
great start for him.
He can build the foundation, but also, build the mansion on the property.
Well, and I'll tie this into Florida man number 3, the one that's feeling good about himself today.
Yes.
Florida State wanted Cam Ward. They absolutely went all in on Cam Ward. But then when Cam Ward declared for the NFL draft, Miami remained patient and didn't go get another quarterback, waiting on Cam Ward to get the grades back they thought he would get, and then to take him. So they went and got DJU. Miami waited for Cam Ward. Damn if that didn't look great in game 1. That dude is a stud. He is an absolute playmaker. And he was fun to watch. He's got kind of an unorthodox sidearm style at times with his delivery, but he was terrific against Florida. Mario Cristobal, a year ago, against Georgia Tech with that clock management gaffe, and the way they lost that game, one of the more painful ways to lose a football game, and one that would be tough for any player to forgive their coach for doing something like that. Goes out and hires a clock management specialist, which we can joke about that. Shouldn't the head coach, getting paid what he gets paid, also be a clock management specialist? Probably. But he saw that he had a blind spot there and went out and hired someone to help him with that part of the game. And through one game, they went into the swamp, dominated Florida, talked trash to the Florida recruits that are on hand to see it, talked trash in the locker room. Mario Cristobal's thumping his chest. That's the type of Florida man you want to be on this Tuesday, and that's what Mario Cristobal is. 3 different types of Florida men, and the college football universe sort of rotating around Florida right now for very different reasons. Miami could be a surprise hit. Florida State is now that team that every other college football fan base looks at and says, at least we're not them. They were preseason top 10 and they're 0-2 after losing to a team that was predicted to finish 10th and 14th in the ACC. Last year was Clemson, that a lot of college football fans say, at least we're not Clemson after losing 28-7 to Duke in the opener. That's Florida State this year, and Florida once again, as we're going to see in between the hashtags, has taken the message boards to go ahead and hire the next coach.
Yes.
They're already done.
And Clemson with their 31-point beatdown. People are having fun with Dabo as well. It's time for Between the Hashtags here on Hot Mic with Hutton and Withrow. We start with the best post that we've seen from those covering and following Dabo. They're saying I'm washed. You're darn right I am. I'm washed in the blood of the Lamb. Dabo Swinney, doing it his way. No transfers coming into the program.
We need to have a bigger discussion about this. I had a buddy who did text me and said part of the reason that media makes fun of Dabo so much is because of his faith and because he's so out front with his faith. There's probably some truth to that.
I think it used to be.
I think in certain media circles. But, I mean, he is going to die on this hill.
Yeah, now I think everyone sees it coming, and he's acting like we're all idiots.
I feel like we may be alone in this, Hutton. I'm here for it, one way or the other. Dude, stick with your convictions.
That's what I said. I'm rooting for the guy because I want to see this old school mentality win out, but truthfully, I know it's not going to. I mean, at some point, you have to be a realist. You have to be self-aware.
There was someone.
That's what's annoying about it.
There was some TV executive back in the day on cable that was like, damn it, streaming is not the way. Digital streaming is not the future. We have it great right now. These carriage fees are amazing.
Radio execs with podcasts.
People go to specific times to watch shows and sports and everything else. Cable is the way. The old school TV is the way, and I will die on this hill. And they're sitting back laughing right now because all the companies are like, man, the streaming is really expensive, and we're losing our ass on it. That could be Dabo Swinney 5 years from now. He'll be out of a job if this continues. He won't be at Clemson.
He may just retire.
But 5 years, he's like, I told you, NIL and transfer portal were end times for college football, and no one listened to me. I'm here for it regardless.
He's going to drop the mic. Tyler and Spartanburg, get in here and coach this team if you think you have it figured out.
I'd love to see what play calls. I bet Tyler and Spartanburg would open up that offense.
He wouldn't go after DJU or Klubnik, maybe.
No.
Georgia beats down Clemson. Prior to the game, they posted their season preview. They're back in the Benz where they
Mercedes-Benz Stadium
traditionally kick off the season. Back as the champs. And big content guy tweets out and says, "A Benz is the last thing I want a Georgia player in." Well done.
This was maybe the best of the weekend. This was pre-kickoff. Early morning on Saturday, getting ready for the games. And when I read this, I thought that's
It sums up their off-season and off-seasons.
It's a Picasso of an ex-post.
Yeah, it will never, ever not be funny. So Dan Mullen, he knows what it's like to be the Florida coach. He knows what it's like to have everyone against you, even though you feel like you're doing things the right way. Mullen won at Florida. He retweeted the Matt Berry post on X. Florida coach that got fired went to three consecutive New Year's Six games in his first 3 years and was let go in his fourth season. And then Breckman Murphy points out Dan Mullen, the former Florida coach mentioned below, with an elite retweet.
And he's retweeting his college football final co-host Matt Berry. Yeah. And I'm sure they're in studio joking about that as they're discussing. I'm sure it's something they've talked about a lot. But this is the cycle now of Florida.
Sure.
And it's so easy to look back and say, they really fired Dan Mullen?
Urban Meyer started all this.
After that, but that's what happened. And now they got Billy Napier.
Speaking of self-aware, at least Florida fans, at least they're not caught off guard. This is, with the game, no score. It's scoreless. 0-0 first quarter. And here are the posts on the Florida message board, Swamp 24/7. We are an effing joke. We're cooked. Laughing my ass off. This is going to be a long year. And LOL, Billy and Scott are so getting fired. Again, scoreless early in the game against Miami. This is the reaction from Northern Gator and company. Logie 316. Clean Gator. Yeah. Good luck.
Well, this is not a surprise at all. That this would
Do
be
they
the
have
reaction
laptops to
during that
post
game.
now after that game?
Yeah, could have shattered one.
I'm sure they did.
They may have the mobile app also on their smartphones.
We all know about Florida's schedule. Here's the remaining group of them. Aaron Torres, Fox Sports, points out that the good news is for Florida, other than Georgia, Texas, LSU, Ole Miss, Tennessee, Texas A&M, FSU, and Kentucky, who has beaten Florida 3 straight years, Gators' schedule really lightens up from there.
Samford. They do have Samford.
Is that next?
That's good news. That's next. That's this week.
All right. Good for them.
Is Samford. That's a really good one. Also, how about Billy Napier coming back in his weekly media availability, making fun of people in their basement in Central Florida?
Yeah.
So I was thinking about
not
that.
Self-aware.
As we're reading through those message board posts, I'm thinking that's who he's talking about.
Yeah. Guys in their basement in Central Florida. I love how Napier has this Florida fan picked out that wants him out of there. It's literally everyone.
Yeah.
It's literally everyone.
Scott Strickland, also your boss, is one of those Central Florida basement dwellers.
Wow. West Virginia, their Barstool account, getting after it. Here's the response as we put it on full screen so I can read this, guys. Sorry. So you got Barstool, Penn State. Morgantown is trash, and it's just the trash coming down off of the steps
from the rain.
Deluge. Sorry, there's no bars of soap floating around. I know how much that excites you guys. From West Virginia Barstool. That's elite.
That's next level.
That's elite.
That is next level for sure. They were sitting on that. They're like, what kind of jokes can we get into?
Yeah. How many?
That's just just enough hitting at that whole thing that we're not going to get too much in trouble. And that's the one they settled on. So well done.
Michigan. How about that offense? A lot to be desired against Fresno State. And there's a screenshot of the game on NBC.
With Michigan leading 16-10.
16-10.
9 minutes left in the fourth quarter, 16 points.
Where's that little bald nerd that gives us all the answers? Sharon Moore. Probably, likely, potentially thinking at that moment. Cotter Stallions.
I watched that game. NBC's cameras remain elite. It's been that way forever. Just the whole thing. Like, it's more clear. It's brighter. Every different network has its own, tint to it.
Yeah.
And it has forever. I love watching games on NBC. And NBC, Noah Eagle does a good job. I like the broadcast. I like that Michigan was struggling offensively even more.
Yeah, it is something to behold. I have a feeling it's not going to be very positive there this year. That's my overreaction.
They're going to need that little bald nerd to come back.
Maybe he's still working for them.
He's close. He's in Detroit coaching a defensive coordinator for a high school. Yeah.
They can't contact him, but can't they contact that high school coach if they wanted to get a hold of him? That's not against the rules.
He's got some burner phone somewhere.
The Florida State, well,
it's a fan.
I know it's a fan, but I'm saying there's a lot of a lot of receipts being kept. Here's maybe the best one / worst one that I want to happen, but I won't watch. 321 Noel's been talking his trash, right? If Florida State loses to BC this weekend, I will eat dog shit out of a red Solo cup with a spoon and post a video of me doing it. Book it. All right, so this was last week.
To which everyone got a hold of. And started reposting it. A lot of National College Football people did.
He deletes his account. Deletes his account after the game.
And then he reactivates it.
Then reactivates his account to let everyone know, y'all can stop tagging me. I'm not going to eat dog shit.
He says something about it's a troll, obvious troll. I'm an obvious troll. Yeah, got it, buddy. Got it at 321
321 Noel's. Hashtag beat BC.
Didn't know that you were a troll. Thanks for clarifying.
I'm trying to think of how many fan bases would actually do this. How many fans would do this?
A lot of people would post it. I don't know that many would do it.
I think the SEC fan base would do this. The average.
I mean, not the average. It would take very lowest possible common denominator of all the fan bases to find that.
But I think the lowest possible common denominator would be posting that to begin with, would come up with that punishment.
And then they would delete their account before doing it.
Oh, that's between the hashtags.